Hello, and welcome to lesson 25 of Financial Sobriety School. I am your host, Linda Parmar, financial sobriety expert. So excited that you're here today because we are going to talk about spending in our sobriety. It's often said to me that people will when we were at the She Recovers gathering the other day, it was like, don't tell Linda, but I bought this. And when I do host a gathering, which I like to do at least once a month, it's like, oh, when I seen you as the host, Linda, I thought, oh, there she is. And that totally doesn't offend me because I know that this is a hard subject to talk about sometimes. But I think you're going to like this subject because I think it's really, really important to spend money. Probably completely not what you thought I was going to be talking about. Because if I was to say to you, you know what? As a money coach, like, I don't think you should spend any extra money. You need to put all of your money towards debt and saving and, don't buy anything else. If I said something like that to you, I know you would probably run for the hills or else you'd play along maybe for a couple days. And then it would be like, no, Linda, not doing that. And then you go on a spending spree. So I often think of it as something like a diet. In diet culture, food and money are super parallel. So many of these gurus out there and people who talk about money talk about how important it is to invest, how important it is to save, which I completely agree. I completely agree with that. And I was someone in my former position as a financial advisor who helped people build plans to do that. But those are also not people who can't stop spending money, find it hard not to spend money impulsively, compulsively, addictively. They're not people who are putting down a substance that they were using to numb out with and trying to figure what to do with their lives. And so when I say it's important to spend money in your sobriety or whatever you're in recovery from, what I mean by that is it doesn't need to be big, huge, grandiose things that you do. It actually comes down to yeah, go out for coffee with your friends. Connection is super important. Go and buy coffee for yourself. Oh, go out for a meal with friends. Go, if you see a shirt that you like, buy it, right? Like, those are the things that if you withhold all of that stuff and come from a real scarcity and deprivation part, you're doing yourself no favors. And I'm not doing you any favors as a coach to help build your financial sobriety. So I like to always tell a little bit of my story because I think it's important because I really teach what I've learned because of courses I've taken, but also my lived experience. Like I've lived this, I've been through it. So when I first got sober, of course, that's when my spending really got worse. But I was actually spending a lot of money when I was actively in my addiction. And I've talked about this recently, but just kind of a something to remind you is when I would go on trips or girls' nights or girls' getaways or different things, they were always so grandiose. It was always so much was happening to be able to quote unquote have a good time, right? I deserved it. Oh, this is what it should be. When I was just putting all of that on credit cards and then refinancing it with a line of credit that was attached to my home. And I always had the best outfits. I still pride myself on my clothes. I love clothing, but am I out buying it every day like I was doing before? Definitely not. But if I see something like that catches my eye and I'm like, oh, I love that, I actually have a little piece of my spending plan that's carved out to spend on stuff that comes up that I would like to have for myself. And how empowering is it that when we start to work on our money and celebrate all of our wins that are happening, that we can actually then make a choice that, yes, I actually want to buy that. So, kind of backing up a little bit as well, as my husband and I just we got home a couple months ago from a trip that we had taken to Costa Rica. And I hadn't gone on an overseas trip other than to a She Recovers conference in LA. I hadn't been overseas with my husband in 10 years. And we were constantly on overseas vations when I was actively drinking. And it would be something that we would plan, whether it was Mexico, mostly Mexico, I think is kind of what happened. We did take our family to Cuba one year. I actually won a trip through work when I was working at the bank, and we went to the Dominican Republic. And those were all, Disneyland. I love Disneyland, by the way. I love Disneyland. I I think I don't think I've been since I got sober, but I'm just having a minute of like, did we have a vacation since I've been sober? And we did go to Disneyland. Maybe we did. I don't know. Anyways, sorry, I digress but yes, thinking about Disneyland, we did bring our kids when my youngest had graduated. But it was always like, where are we going next year? Where are we going next year? And then to actually have a pause of 10 years when we were used to going every year, but we were busy freaking paying off all of those years that we had been going on vacations. So, like, I get a little bit tongue tied with that one because I actually think, like, yeah, actually, this past 10 years, that's exactly what we've been doing. And I know we've been paying off like what we were doing and what I was doing when it came to spending. But I think I actually really just had an aha moment live here right now of being like, yeah, we actually were paying off all that stuff in the last 10 years. And me and my husband were both like on the same page. Like, we're not going to go and spend a bunch of money on a trip if we don't have it, and to put ourselves back exactly where we started from. Obviously, not exactly where we started from because there was a heck of a lot of debt. But when it actually even came to the time of like buying tickets and booking our Airbnbs, it was like, oh, should we really be doing this? It was almost a little bit like I didn't trust the situation because my financial sobriety and how much debt I'd actually had incurred during that time. It took a really long time to dig ourselves out of that hole. So to actually make the decision to go was really back and forth. Yes, I'm excited. Oh my goodness, no, this seems overwhelming. Oh my goodness, this is going to be money. And when we got there, and to think back of what we experienced during our time there, oh, was it all ever worth it? Every single moment of all that hard time of just staying focused on paying off our debt and keeping an eye on our spending. And we still we did weekends away like a couple times a year, like just locally, but we weren't staying in like five-star hotels. We were super simple Airbnbs, bringing our animals, going to the beach. Like, it wasn't like it used to be. We were still I was living financial sobriety. But when we got off the airplane, first of all, I hate flying. And also, side note, that I got so sick before we left for our trip to Costa Rica. I got food poisoning the night before we left. I was a mess. And even up until that point, it was like, because I was so sick, I honestly didn't know if I could like leave my bathroom. But it was like, oh God, okay, I'm going to cancel it. And there was a part of me that thought, okay, if I cancel it, then like we're going to get reimbursed and like I won't have, like, I'll be able to put money in our savings account. It's the weird gymnastics that still happen in my mind sometimes about money. But when that plane, we were kind of like, when we flew into Liberia, you kind of fly over the water and all the green, lush bushlands. And I just started bawling, and it all felt so worth it in that moment. And you step off the plane and you smell like that different smell. And traveling might not be your thing, but it has been such a big part of my life that to be able to do that. And we went for my husband's 50th birthday. I cried multiple times on the trip, just really being like, this is because I've worked on my money so hard. Yeah, this is because I've worked on my money so hard. You might hear me feeling a little welled up with that because it's been a lot of work, and it was a big moment to be able to, make choices and be able to spend that money. And even when we got there, I actually wish that I had done like a money coach goes to Costa Rica kind of thing, and like kind of make a vlog of like what things cost and what I chose to spend money on and where to spend your money. But it actually was like super overwhelming at first because like one, like it's a completely different language, and it was just all very overwhelming. What I will say is if you do go to Costa Rica, Walmart actually was not even close to the cheapest place to get stuff. So other than like our cooler and some beach chairs that we got, the food, I actually found it to be way cheaper, like when we actually got into the little towns and their little grocery stores, um, for things even like a bag of chips. Yeah, I could, that's a whole other episode, but we got to really choose like what we were going to spend money on, and it was kind of exciting for me, even though it was overwhelming. Like, okay, what are we going to spend our money on? What's that going to look like? Are we going to eat out? Are we going to cook? And just being in a different country, it just felt like a real adventure. So I really, really cherish that. And I know that it felt even more special because of all the hard work that my husband and I have done. And that feels really, really good to say that. So, yes, spending money in our sobriety is important to honor ourselves with what we need. Again, if you see a shirt that you like and it's like, oh my God, I love that. I would love that. Like, sometimes there's like the high ticket stuff where it's like it actually is a big chunk of change. Might want to like question that, but then it also comes down to like, don't buy four of the same shirt, like one in every color, like maybe just buy one. And just starting to again, I always talk about that awareness of being really aware. Sober spending being one of the foundations of financial sobriety school, of being clear, of being aligned, being present about your purchase. I know that when I first actually stopped drinking, because I used to always, debt was incurring because of buying alcohol. But when I first started my financial sobriety as well, like I would just buy myself little things, but things to honor, like, okay, I'm on this journey. And so it would look like dinners out. It would look like maybe a shirt, or because again, I talk about clothes all the time because I love clothes. Um but like Lush bath bombs. Love a good bubble bath or something like that, just to kind of have my time alone. A lot of people buy like books. but I'm going to put my little disclaimer that I always love to say about books is buying books and reading books are two different activities. If you're going to buy a book, have the real intention of reading it and not buy another book until you do read it. And then also the other disclaimer is that buying the book isn't going to fix what like the title of the book is. So say for example, perimenopause, because that's like good times in the Linda Parmar land with that. And so like this book on perimenopause. Well, I have perimenopause, so I'm going to buy that book and everything will be great. No. No, buying the book isn't going to cure anything, unfortunately. I really wish it would, honestly, because us ladies, us peeps, we love a good book. We love a good book graveyard where they all sit there and we don't actually read them. Um, so just a little reminder about that. But also, if you read books and that's what's something that's going to make you happy, buy the freaking books. When I was thinking about this episode, and about buying things, I don't know if it's just here in Canada that we have the commercial, but like the IKEA commercial where the woman's like running out with these bags and it's like, start the car, because like she's thinking she's getting these things for free because they were so cheap. um and that's sometimes when we haven't quite found financial sobriety. That's what the spending looks like, is this celebration that we think that we are getting all the deals and all the things. But yeah, you don't need to buy everything, but just also making the choice and really realizing and giving yourself that permission that it's okay to spend money on yourself. It's okay to buy stuff for yourself. The main part of it is planning your spending, knowing that you have that money, pausing and thinking about it instead of just like going forward. This episode isn't about giving you the permission to like just go like all the way and spend money on absolutely everything you see. No, let's set some boundaries on it. Let's have dollar amount boundaries, but still also letting yourself buy things when you want them, when it's planned, because it's not that you can only buy things that you need. Sometimes you want something, and that's okay. We're human. And it's really important in your financial sobriety that you honor that and make sure that you don't go into complete deprivation and scarcity, because that's going to lead you into overspending and getting back into the cycle of that spending habit of buying anything and everything that you want. That's financial sobriety, still being able to spend money on yourself. Thank you so much for being here for this episode. If you love the podcast, I would love, love, love a rating on here. It's just super quick to do that. And if you want to add a comment, I would love that as well. Needing to get this information out to the people that need it. If you're watching it on YouTube, please as well. I would love to see a comment, hear what you have to think about this lesson. And again, thanks so much for being here, and I will see you in a couple weeks.